Welcome back to the Brandon K Show. Yes. I am your host, as always, Brandon K. This is a real show. Today, the topic is fear. Hold on. Oh, fear and faith. And I'm here today with Lucky Lisa. Lisa, you have some experience with fear and faith, right?
Yeah, I think we probably all do.
Are you afraid to be on my show right now?
No.
That's good. That's good.
No.
Some people get scared to come on.
Oh, really?
Because we got all these lights on us and
Oh. I've got a little background in
being on camera.
cameras
Oh,
and
cool.
microphones and lighting and yeah,
That's
a
awesome.
little.
That's awesome.
Didn't phase me.
That's great. Well, I want to say before we get into this great topic that Lisa came up with of fear, you wanted to, it was more like, okay, so I do the A to Z. Solomon here has watched me go all the way from A to F.
I have.
Wow. That's far.
in 5 months. So, but I did the Fallout show. I did all these the entertainment roundup, and now we're talking about F for fear. And Lisa is a great guest to talk about fear and faith with.
Yeah.
Okay, but before we get into that and how we stay in faith and away from fear, Brandon K Show is brought to you by Giftiply charity wrapping paper. This is eco-friendly, and 33% of the proceeds go to all these great causes up on the screen. Give Kids the World. I'm forgetting the other ones right now, and use promo code BK Show for 25% off your purchase. So really great cause. Thank you, Giftiply, the gift wrap that gives back. There you have it. I'll give you some. You want cats?
What else do you have?
Animals? Let's show the
I would
audience
do animals.
too. We got multiple.
Yeah.
This is for the Wildlife Foundation.
Yeah, let's
one's
do
really
that
cool.
since
That
I
one's
volunteer
nice.
at the
There we
wildlife.
go. We got two of them for you. Go ahead.
Awesome.
And
I spend a lot of time with the wildlife at the rescue.
that's awesome. And when somebody asks you why you wrap their paper or their gift up with that, say, I got it from Giftiply.
I will.
That is a cool thing that I know about Lisa is you're like saving the pelicans from the oil spills and stuff.
We get orphaned animals and injured animals in, and I volunteer there.
Where at?
Wetlands Wildlife Rescue or Care Center.
Oh, okay.
Turtles. I see you saving turtles, right?
There's sometimes turtles there.
Ducks.
Lots of ducks.
Baby ducks.
Baby ducks all the way.
Where's that located? What city is that in?
In Huntington Beach.
Oh, okay.
It's the Wetlands Wildlife Care Center, I believe is what it's called.
Nice.
So that's a very good cause you're into, and this is a cause that the wrapping paper goes to a wildlife foundation.
Does the wrapping paper have like the company name on it in case somebody wants to know where to buy it?
Yes,
that's important.
I believe so. I'll get you that.
Right
I'll
on.
get you that for sure.
The other cool thing is it has the name of the person who designed it on there too.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
somebody
Morgan
says, "Hey, I
Richardson.
want
Shout
this.
out.
Oh,
Hey,
wow.
I want this. Where do I buy it? And then
Yeah.
be able to tell them it's on there.
Giftiply.com. Promo code BK Show. So, yeah, let's get into the topic of fear. Myself, I'll start this topic out, is that it all does come down to my journey and, being an alcoholic and a drug addict and having that fear throughout my whole life of not being good enough and, all that deep stuff. And, it was in getting sober that I found out that fear is the enemy. Fear is like the main thing that's like messing my life up. And so I had to learn how to have faith. And I learned faith in myself, humanity, and a higher power.
Well, see, I think our disease wants us in fear so that we can be restless, discontent, and unhappy. And that way we, decide that it's not worth it and go out and drink and use again.
Yeah, and
Like, if we don't have any serenity because we're stuck in fear, then what what kind of good is there in being sober if we're like unhappy and in fear all the time? And then isolating.
exactly, and fear will always lead us back to our drug of choice.
Right.
And so, and I mean, to a little background on me and Lisa is we both got sober around the same time, 7.5 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's been a long time of just staying sober, learning through the journey of, connecting to our higher power, getting away from fear, seeing each other's growth over all that time,
Staying stopped.
staying
Right.
stopped.
I could stop over and over, but it was staying stopped.
So if you want to tell us a little bit about your story as it relates to fear and like how you found something that helped you, whether that be faith or something else.
Well, I definitely, when you first met me, didn't believe in any higher power. I was pretty much agnostic or atheist. But I have a Judaic background.
Hmm.
But that higher power, God, is, some of us call him, was like a punishing God that didn't protect me and all of that. So, um, with a lot of the trauma and abuse and stuff that happened in my childhood, and in my adult life, making all these self-will choices of drinking and using. Yeah, I was just like full of fear, had no faith whatsoever. And
Did you grow up like in the Jewish churches, whatever they're called? The
temples,
temples? Did you
a
have
little bit
a
here and
little
there.
bit of temple?
Yeah,
That's
when
kind
I
of
was young, when I was really young.
yeah, yeah. But I mean, I was just gonna say like I had like Christianity in my background, but like not a lot of it. So it's not like. But you're saying you just had like a like it was in like your family was
The
Jewish,
the
but
family
yeah,
was technically Orthodox
yeah,
in my eyes
yeah.
and practiced some Orthodox methods, but ultimately, when I look back, they were really Reform.
I don't know what that
But
means.
it's just different degrees of
Oh,
Judaism.
okay.
How much you practice the religion, I suppose. But then there was a divorce,
Mm,
and all religion went out the door, and the
okay.
drugs and the alcohol came in
Okay.
very
What
early.
age? What age for you?
Oh, for me,
Yeah.
um, well, the first time I smoked pot was probably 11 or 12.
Very early, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then that went on for
Decades.
decades. And then
Uh, then then my daughter actually told me that, you might need to get sober, mom.
yeah.
And she took me to some meetings.
Mm,
Yeah.
12-step program meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, very
I
good.
started
Was
detoxing
that
and all of that.
2016?
It was.
2016. That's
It
when I met
was.
you.
How old was your daughter when she told you that?
Yeah.
Good question, because I couldn't even tell you
It
barely how
was
old I
I mean,
was
was she like
then.
a
it's seven
teenager
and a
or
half years ago.
Yeah,
So you
we'll
take
just
her
keep
age now.
anonymity.
Take her age
We'll
and
keep her age
minus
anonymity.
minus 7.
I was thinking like was she a child or was she a teenager or was she a young adult?
Young adult.
Okay, got
Young
it.
adult.
Mhm,
Yeah, yeah.
and so, I don't know,
So
were there other people telling you you needed help too?
no, that's the thing is like I went on for years on, medications and drugs and alcohol, and no one was telling me I had a problem or that there was a solution. And so um yeah, I got myself what they call a sponsor,
Mhm,
and we started working steps.
yeah,
And the short story of it is I started seeing people happy, and I didn't believe that anyone could actually stay sober. And I just kind of used the rooms
yeah,
and the people that I met, and had what we call faith that
sure,
this might work because it's working for other people. So there was a quite a character that I met who was a very hippie kind of dude,
mhm,
and and had that whole like 60s, 70s kind of vibe,
yeah.
mainly 60s, and the tie dye and the whole thing, and like, and he was staying sober, and I was like, dude, if you could stay sober, I probably could.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the sponsor I had was really someone who believed a lot in like Mother Nature, and she she was actually pagan,
Mhm.
but we didn't bring religion into it. It's a spiritual thing. So like we did the third step under the pier, and it was a slow spiritual growth,
Yes.
which has grown into what I have now, which is a lot of faith.
And I would say, like, when you're in your addiction, I'm just speaking from experience, then there's a fear to even get sober because you don't know what sobriety is gonna look like.
I just didn't think it was even possible.
Yeah.
I actually wanted to live a sober life, but I couldn't stay stopped and I
Mm.
didn't know how. And I had promised myself over and over again, year after year, night after night, and it just never would work for me because it was my way, which, is just giving into whatever I want, which was the disease, feeding the disease, drugs and alcohol.
So it's almost like a miracle that you even got sober.
It isn't almost. It absolutely is. It
Yes.
absolutely is because I loved drugs and alcohol, and I didn't realize that it wasn't like my dad was giving me like ounces of pot a month for 1 ounce a month
Mm.
was my allowance when I was
Mhm.
in high school. Like,
Mm.
so that started me off on like, and then there was always alcohol around and there was pot and all of that. So I met this person in sobriety who had asked me, like, because I told him I don't have any like faith or a God or like, I'm atheist, I'm agnostic. And he said to me, well, do you have any faith at all? Show me how much faith you have.
Mm.
And I went like this. Actually went like this.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, that's a seed of faith.
Okay.
And I didn't know this person was very godly, actually, and like that was even a saying, a seed of faith at
Mm.
that time. I mean, I was like just so wet behind the ears,
That's
new in
from the
sobriety.
Bible, right?
I,
The
I
mustard
don't know.
seed that
Yeah,
grows
yeah, yeah.
into
That's it.
into a faith.
Think so.
Solomon, can you
It
fill us
is
in
the
on that?
mustard seed.
Just because my name is Solomon, you think I know all about the Bible, right?
I
No,
think.
I can look it up, though.
Okay. Do you know? I mean, the mustard seed is something from one of the parables of the Bible that all you need is a mustard seed of faith for the tree to grow.
So I went
Yeah.
like that, and he goes, well, that's a seed. That's all you need. And if you water it and grow it, it's going to get bigger. And I didn't believe any of that. And I couldn't even believe that he turned what I had, which was this much, into a seed, which lit a light bulb in my head. And I was probably around 6 months sober then, maybe 4 months.
So staying sober but not finding a higher power yet.
Right. I was just getting into the steps. We were probably in the middle of 4 or something like that because I started into the steps real quick. But I started carrying around seeds from an orange
Oh
in my
wow.
pocket everywhere I went to remember that all I need is a seed of faith.
Oh wow, that's an incredible story. Solomon had this up on the screen. It says Matthew 17:20. Truly I tell you, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you. We're talking about of
Wow.
faith in, everything.
Yeah.
And like I did a episode here on the show called The Belief Cycle, and just talking about how everything starts with belief. So when you truly believe that you can do something, that's where it all kind of starts. Whether that's get sober or what other things we want to achieve in our life, it all kind of starts with belief.
Well, that's interesting because I didn't have any belief
Mm-hmm.
in myself. I had belief in the people around me,
Mm-hmm.
but not in me. And because I knew that I have no power, I'm powerless over alcohol, and my life was unmanageable. I knew step 1 really well.
Mm-hmm.
So I still believe that
Had you
today.
tried to get sober over the years? You said you wanted to be sober, but had you like tried, or were you?
My idea of sober was not drinking once in a while. And,
Right.
like, there was a good period where I was just on, let's say, psych meds
Mhm.
and medications,
Yeah.
and I wasn't doing outside issues and drinking and stuff. There was a good period of time where I would say almost a decade.
So now that you found some faith, you went back to your orthodoxy Jewish
No.
beliefs?
I mean, I'm naturally drawn to the roots,
Mm-hmm.
and I am absolutely Jewish in all um the ideas in my head about religion, but I'm not religious, I'm spiritual.
Okay,
Um
gotcha.
when we start talking about other religions, I've through the years been to many churches um and got my toes wet in a lot of different religions, but nothing's ever really felt comfortable for me other than Judaism. And even that I have an issue with, especially when it comes to alcohol, because there's so much alcohol in all rituals in most religions.
What do they do? They pull
Well,
out the wine, or
It's
I
the
mean,
wine, yeah.
well, yeah, there's wine and the wafer, at the church, and then there's blessings over the wine with the bread. There's wine in, it seems like, in every religion. So I really, I find my higher power not inside a building, but more like at the beaches with nature. Um, yeah,
under the pier,
under the pier.
at the meetings.
Yeah,
Can I ask
it,
a quick question?
absolutely.
When when you're talking about not having faith, did that happen before you started using to the point where you felt like, you needed help, or was it after or
I
during?
I think that it's a good question. However, to put a pinpoint on it, I would say because of the extreme abuse in my household when I was very young,
Okay.
and then my mom leaving at 7, um, and then all the toxic behavior after that, I just think that I never had an idea of God. I saw my brothers going to Hebrew school. I
Mhm.
saw some family members um doing Judaic rituals, but I never connected that with a God, and I
Okay.
always felt skipped over, like God didn't love me, that I didn't have anything or anyone protecting me. So I don't know that I ever had it to begin with.
And was your father sort of the leader in terms of sending the kids to Hebrew school and all that?
My father was very heavy-handed, and his parents were practicing Orthodox ways when
Okay.
he, I guess, was young. I don't know a lot about that history, and family members tend to disagree on what is what.
Sure.
So I just have my um
Your memories, your
m-
recollections.
my I guess, how do I say, you know, my perception.
Got it.
Right. So my perception is that dad, it was dad, we did what dad said. And dad didn't say that I should go to church or temple or whatever, because I was like 7 when mom left, and then everything hit the fan.
Mm.
So I was never even given the opportunity really
So yeah,
for any kind of Judaic schooling.
Yeah, it's hard for a girl to lose her mom.
Yeah, I have her back now.
Oh, good.
Yeah, yeah. And she actually, I went to,
Yeah, we'll
yay.
give you that.
Um, She was always there on the sidelines fighting for me.
Hmm.
But
She just left your dad. She didn't leave you, or I mean,
well, she was fleeing for her life,
mm,
really, in my perception,
mm,
because he was crazy.
mhm.
So, and for other reasons. However, um when I did move in with her, shortly after she left out here in California, and that's what brought me out here. Um let's see.
Where are you from originally?
Jersey.
Oh wow.
Well, born in Baltimore, moved to Jersey when I was 2, and then I've been back and forth between Jersey and California several times because I ran back and forth between parents trying to get my way.
Mm.
Yeah, in my disease mostly. But yeah, my mom sent me to a like a Kinderschule, which is um they were speaking Yiddish and they were teaching me Yiddish, which is another Jewish language that my grandparents spoke. So I really enjoyed that. That was about the only Jewish schooling I had was, I think it was called Kinderschule, and it was Yiddish.
Hmm.
Yeah. But still, there was no God involved with that for me that I recall.
Yeah, yeah. I listen to a lot of Howard Stern, and
Oh,
he went through all like the Jewish training, but like you can be totally just they could pounded into your head, and you could learn all the scriptures and everything, and still not believe in anything that you're doing.
Yeah, I didn't. No one was pounding anything into my head except really drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
that
like,
was me pounding the drugs and the alcohol from
yeah,
12 on. I mean,
yeah,
yeah. So nothing much was getting past that.
right, right. You're saying that you were on drugs, so you weren't listening.
Pretty
But
much.
yeah, I got you.
Yeah, I was already checked out.
Yeah. So when it comes to
So
fear,
really, my parents didn't have any chance. But yeah, when it comes to
when
fear,
it comes to fear in our 12-step programs, we take a fear inventory.
oh yeah, we
What
do.
did your fear inventory look like?
Oh, I still remember some of the things that are on it.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause some of them haven't changed, like heights and yeah,
Sure. So it could be like all the
elevators.
like death stuff, or it can be more personal stuff. Like, yeah, it
Mm-hmm.
could be like snakes and heights and the abyss. Mine's
Fear,
darker. Mine's
fear
darker.
of going out,
Yeah.
not staying
Yep.
sober.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Fear of being abused, neglected, abandoned.
Yeah.
Fear of not being safe, technically, because all fear comes down to basically 4 or 5 things: our ambitions not being, our needs not being met is another word for ambitions, but our needs not being met, not having safety, not having love, not being wanted, the
Hmm.
abandonment stuff. It all comes down to basically safety.
That's a good breakdown of where the fears come from. Yeah.
Yeah, like we're not going to get something that we need.
We're not going to get something we need.
Right. That's like the biggest
We're going
fear.
to lose something we have.
Right.
And you said a few other ones: losing love, losing
Abandonment,
safety,
safety. Yeah, it's all kind of
safety.
together.
Um, Someone's told me like being found out, like if you're not being honest, that's a fear. Is like, but it's if as
Well,
long as you're being honest, you don't have to worry about
yeah,
that one.
if you're doing an inventory and you're not honest, well,
Yeah.
then you're pretty much screwed.
But I mean, imagine anybody out there who's living any kind of a lie, like that's a fear. Fear comes along with as soon as you start lying, then you're like, oh, am I going to be found out?
Well, the whole point for me of
Hmm.
sobriety is to have serenity and peace. And if I can't be honest or I'm not honest,
Yeah.
there's no way to have any serenity or peace because you're stuck in your head in fear.
So you live a very honest life these days.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't fuck around with it. Can I say that?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can say that.
I don't.
You don't. You do not fuck around with
Dishonesty.
dishonesty.
Yeah.
What about when it comes to being too truthful with somebody? Did you struggle with that?
I have to, it's not a struggle
Hmm.
because I get to be honest and in a kind and loving way. I work another 12-step program that teaches me how to have love and tolerance and detach with love.
Hmm.
And I've learned by working really hard how to communicate pretty well and talk it out with someone else if I need to, so that and I also do that spot check if I hurt someone, that 10-step
I
spot check.
I guess something I've learned too is that I can share my truth, and it's like it's okay to share my truth, and that could hurt somebody. But if I'm just sharing my truth, then that's what that's. I'm just saying this is how I feel. It's not necessarily something that should hurt them.
Well, there are things that are hard to hear, especially if someone's not willing to look at themselves, but we see it because that's the magic of these 12-step programs is that we can see in others what we can't see in ourselves.
Yeah.
And so I've learned that, honesty is just the best policy. And if I move to say something, I say it with love and kindness. And if they have a problem with it, they can work on it with me or with someone else.
Right. Like you've learned. Sounds like you've learned a lot of boundaries.
Yeah, I had none.
Yeah.
I had none.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
So then you learned about it. So then there'll be times where you're like, I can't be in your life anymore if somebody's too.
I've never had to do that
Yeah. You keep an
because,
open communication. I mean, you keep open line to people. You don't have to cut anybody out.
well, detaching with an axe is something I stopped doing. Yeah.
What's it called?
Detaching with an axe
Oh.
instead
Oh.
of detaching with love.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the people anyone that's in my life that's really sick that's in toxic behavior, I can detach with love
Mhm.
and kindness and be an example, and I don't have to spend energy and time, um, wasting energy and time, but I can, be kind and loving about it
Right, right.
and protect, and I go and ground myself on the beach and, all of that and sage and yeah. So,
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, it's
but
just
no, there's nobody that like I've had to cut off or like,
Do you find that people that you would normally cut off sort of fade out of your life automatically? Because I
um,
found that to happen rather than, you have to actually actively cut them off.
I really just don't have anybody in my world I have to cut off.
I can say for myself that that if I'm telling my truth, that could be something that could scare people away. Like, especially if I'm saying like, "Oh, you need help," or like, please get some help." Like, then that's gonna make them so they don't want to be around me.
I mean,
That could happen. To
Yeah.
i-
Solomon's point.
if somebody's drinking or using, I can tell them I'm uncomfortable with that and it's not who I want to be surrounded by.
Hmm.
Love you and I'm here if you ever want to change your ways, but I leave it open
Hmm.
because
Yeah.
that's the goal is to be love and tolerance is our code. And if they're sick, I could just be right there next to them.
Are you currently a sponsor?
Oh, yeah, I am.
Good.
Have you ever heard that fear is the opposite of love?
I definitely know that fear's on the opposite of love. I know that hate's the opposite of love. It's on the same spectrum. I don't know about fear, but if you hate,
Mm-hmm.
there's that.
Well, this brings us to episode 1 of Star Wars.
How did I know we were going to get to Star Wars on this show? Oh,
And
look at the shirt. No
yeah,
wonder.
and we got Yoda up here. Episode 1, which I'm gonna go watch in theaters tonight. It's playing in all theaters right now. Yoda says something beautiful to Anakin. Anakin's a young child,
Uh-huh.
and he's just lost it, or he's just been taken away from his mother to become a Jedi, and he's going in for training to become a Jedi, a Padawan, but he's a little older than the other Padawans, and Yoda tells him he has too much fear in him. Fear is the path to the dark side.
It's all coming back to me now.
Fear is the path to the dark side. Fear leads to anger.
Mm.
Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And this little line from Star Wars Episode 1 is actually the entire arc of not only the prequel trilogy, but also what becomes of Darth Vader. So first he had his fear that he was going to lose his mother. Then in the Episode 2, his mother is killed by the Tusken Raider sand people, and he hates them, and he kills them all. And he says, I hate them. They're animals, and I slaughter them like animals. And then that leads into him becoming Darth Vader.
You're making me want to go see the movie.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I highly recommend keeping on top of this stuff.
Well,
And
there's reality and there's fantasy.
just to be clear, that wasn't the first one ever made. That was the second series of 3, right?
This is the prequel
the,
series.
the first of the okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
So you got episode.
So no Luke Skywalker yet.
Yes, A New Hope was 1977, but it was later called Episode 4. He
Right.
went back and made the prequel series, which is Episode 1, 2, and 3, and that's where we saw a puppet version of Yoda say these words to young Anakin. And he's in this chair right here. He's in his Jedi Council chair. This is a toy from Taco Bell from 1999 when the movie came out.
Okay, so I do have one Star Wars question for you.
Yes.
So, understanding that these words are so iconic in not only the Star Wars world, but in your world,
Hmm.
did you ever think to say, okay, obviously on screen it was Yoda who said this, but did you ever think to say, who was the writer who came up with it?
Of course, you know the writer,
Okay, who's the writer?
George Lucas.
Did he actually write it?
Lucas.
Yeah, George Lucas wrote every word of Star Wars.
Okay.
Yeah, George
right.
Lucas wrote every word of Star Wars, and he got a lot of it from Joseph Campbell's A Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is all about mythology. And so it's about the hero's journey. And so you go back and you follow the chain from George Lucas back to Joseph Campbell, and then that goes back to Carl Jung, and then
Oh.
Carl Jung goes back to these 12-step programs.
I was wondering if that
Yeah,
was the same Carl.
Carl Jung. Yeah, he's a father of
And you're
psychology.
saying that somehow that's connected to Star
Oh
Wars?
yeah,
Well,
Carl Jung had a few
Wow.
revolutionary concepts. One of them
Okay.
was the one that helped these. What is the basis of our 12-step programs,
Yeah.
which is that a spiritual experience can solve our alcoholism. That's our cure, is a spiritual experience. Carl Jung came up with that, and he also came up with what led to this mythology with Joseph Campbell, and he came up with this other concept of like universal consciousness. So he has a few concepts out there that if you dive deep, you'll reach back to Carl Jung.
Yeah, I've seen his name in a book once or twice.
One thing about Carl Jung is that I know someone who tried to read his work, and they said it's like, I think he was German, and it's like really hard to like understand and get through.
oh,
But the concepts are all in there, and I've
okay.
never actually tried to read it. I just, you could Wikipedia it and stuff.
Okay, so Carl Jung has a he's a basis for some of the origin of Star Wars then.
Yes.
Got it.
Well, Joseph Campbell. Yeah.
Joseph
And the
Campbell.
12 steps.
Joseph Campbell. Joseph Campbell's the main guy that George Lucas would point to.
Okay.
Joseph Campbell and the Hero with 1,000 Faces. You want to pull that up?
I could, yeah.
Joseph Campbell. So that's the hero's journey. Ever heard of the hero's journey?
I probably have, maybe from you.
Oh, the hero's journey. The hero's journey is about how every story that we hear in movies
Mm-hmm.
and throughout mythology and life all comes back to like the hero, and he has a specific, he meets his mentor,
Mm-hmm.
and then he fights his demon that he needs to fight. And I'm not prepared to talk about all this, but I do know a lot about it, but I'm can't always get it all out of my brain. But these are good things to look into. Look at Joseph Campbell, Hero with 1,000 Faces.
Okay. Let's see.
That's the mythology. That's the George Lucas. So George Lucas literally like sat there like a crazy person for months and years, and dived into the mythology and the hero's journey, and then created Star Wars out of that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, and there it is.
Yeah.
So that's all the Star Wars stuff, but more importantly, the fear. And I also would like to talk about the opposite of fear, faith.
Mm-hmm.
The opposite of faith, the opposite of fear is also courage.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So you got two opposites there. You also have love, could be a potential opposite. But as far as courage goes, okay, so we're there's three ways that I like to have faith that I started at the beginning of the show. Faith in myself. How does that apply to your life? Having faith in yourself. Have you learned to have faith in yourself now that you've been sober all these years?
Yeah, I have. Yeah. I mean, I still question myself here and there,
Mm-hmm.
but I talk things out, reason things out with other people. And it gives me courage and faith to know that, my natural instinct is usually, right on.
And then the belief builds that like you've been able to handle many, many things over the last 7 years, and then you're like, oh, I can handle this.
It's progress, not perfection. I'm not perfect,
Mhm.
but, if something baffles me, it's when I reach out for help,
Mhm.
ask, my higher power. And, I usually find the answers through other people. I think people are like skin gods.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
God's made of skin.
well, the answers come through other people,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
I think that's true as well.
I mean, I see God in everyone. I think we all have a little bit of it. But yeah, having faith in myself, for the most part, I make pretty good decisions today. And if I'm not sure, I call someone and they still won't make the decision for me. So,
Yeah, no, it's
so
but then then you're the one who makes the choice, and then you believe that you make the right choices. That's like an affirmation I tell myself, is like I choose the right decisions. No matter what, I'm gonna come up with the right decision. I'm not gonna come up with it myself. I'm gonna run it by some people, and then I'm gonna come up with the right decision.
well, here's
And I
where I
affirm
go
it.
with that. There
Okay.
is no right or wrong. And
Yes.
it's better to be happy than to be right.
Yes.
So I also believe that every decision we make, whatever lesson we learn from it, is where we grow. So if we make decisions that aren't the best, we learn from them. And if we didn't make mistakes, we wouldn't learn. So it doesn't always have to be the right decision. And you
Right.
can be wrong. You
Right.
can, you know,
Right.
not be perfect.
Yeah.
And so not expecting perfectionism from myself gives me the freedom to have a little self-will
Mhm.
and make decisions and trust that like if I've made a bad decision, I'll learn from it and but the goal is to do my best every day.
Yeah.
And be open to learning from those decisions,
Right.
because a lot of people aren't open to
I
learning
mean,
from them.
it isn't really about being right or wrong. If we can remove that from our
Yeah.
theory.
Yeah, there's that. Well, yeah, there's no rights and wrongs, there's only rights and lefts.
I was
Yeah,
gonna say
okay.
actions and consequences. That's the way I grew
But
up.
yeah, that gets into faith in higher power, which is it's God's plan, and it's like, okay, something didn't go my way, but, eventually, this is God's plan, maybe he's trying to teach me something, and, there's people even listening to this show who don't believe in God or a higher power at all, so, I
Yeah,
mean.
I I wrestle with going back and forth between God's plan and my plan
Mhm.
and what that really is, God's will versus my will.
Yeah.
Um, but I really do kind of believe, I say really do and kind of in the
Yeah, no,
same
no, go
sentence.
for it.
It's
I
hard.
really believe.
Yeah, that there's kind of a plan written. There's a journey. I mean, I believe I was chosen to be sober. I don't think it's luck.
Mhm.
I think that all of us that get sober are chosen because a lot of us die. I mean, literally,
Sure.
like there's
We've
a
seen.
very small
Yeah,
percentage that
yeah,
stay sober and live.
right.
So then where does the name Lucky Lisa come from?
Yeah.
Oh,
Since you said
I
it's
stole
not
that from
luck.
I stole that from Lucky Doug.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Uh,
would he also agree that staying sober is why he's lucky,
um.
or something along those
Well, I
lines?
can't speak for someone else,
Yeah, yeah,
but
yeah.
he's definitely pretty lucky.
Sure, sure, sure.
Yeah, I think we all are.
Lucky Doug. Sorry. I just wanted to. So we got into the God's will and the faith in God and the faith in Himself. The one I like to talk about here on the show is faith in humanity.
Oh.
So some people like they could just have a very bleak view of the world
Mm.
and like just like, oh, we're all going down the tubes. I choose to actually believe that people are good and that we're going in a good direction. How do you feel about faith in humanity?
I love that topic. So I can say for sure that when I was in fear and not sober minded, that everybody was an enemy and after me and had no good intention and no one was trustworthy. However, when I focus on what's good in the world and how I get to be good in the world, I restore my own um, delusion of humanity
The
because
the delusion being that they're bad,
that they're bad
that some that
because
they're going to do bad things, and we should be afraid of everybody.
right, like that everybody has it out for me.
Hmm.
So that really came with the paranoia of the drugs and the alcohol, I think. However, I mean, there are bad people in the world and bad things do happen, obviously, all over the world all the time. However, what I do is I try to be the best person I can be and add to the stream of life and try to be kind to others and patient and tolerant. And so I've restored my belief in humanity by being the person I would want to be around.
That's beautiful, and it's also the golden rule, and it's also karma, and it's also cause and effect, and it's also I had another one, but it's this like very spiritual concept of just like, okay, I do good things, and now that helps me believe that other people can do good things too.
Right. Like if I'm being a shitty person and lying and stealing, manipulating and being dishonest and all of that, then how am I going to have any faith in humanity? So it takes a lot of restoration and restoring ourselves and aligning what we call aligning ourselves with God's will,
Does the Jewish faith have the golden rule?
which is,
Oh, do unto others as you would have done
oh,
unto
for
to you.
sure. For sure.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that started with them. And yeah,
Yeah, I would say so.
yeah,
We're not pillaging and stealing and, trying to hurt each other. It's love. I think most religions pretty much come from a place of love. Not all. I wouldn't know.
Yeah,
But
yeah, they seem
but
to
in
seem to
general, yeah, for sure. Yeah, you know, we want good things, so we get to change our lives in recovery and do good. So
What's
it
your advice to the people out there listening if they're fearful or they're struggling with alcohol and addiction?
my advice,
Yeah, you can talk directly to them.
I don't
Dir-
um
Talk directly to them.
well, what's my advice? Get to a meeting and ask somebody for help. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people who care.
What if they're afraid to go to a meeting?
Um,
Don't
take contrary action, do it anyway.
don't be afraid.
Yeah, like what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I mean, you could stay isolated and suicide, possibly get suicidal and stay depressed, and then the other option is to just die if you want to choose that. But chances of people listening that are on drugs and alcohol to a podcast about drugs and alcohol is not very high. You
Mhm.
never know, though, I
You never know.
suppose. But yeah,
Yeah.
they have Zoom. There's
Yeah.
help. I mean, go to your church, or if you have a religious, 12-step programs aren't for everyone. People can
Sure.
get sober without a 12-step program.
Here's what I've learned to do, and I think I talked about it already, but it's just like I see fear as the enemy, and it's that contrary action. It's like I'm gonna die unless I do something positive today, or if unless I help somebody get out of myself today, or I pray, or like do something in the right direction, a spiritual direction, or a positive direction, or something that's helping somebody else, then that's like, and I'm always going to be facing fear. I'm like the most fearful person around. If you, my drugs are alcohol and Xanax. I'm always afraid and anxious, and Lisa knows that I'm anxious. Um, uh, um, Help me, Lisa.
Xanax was my jam
Yeah,
too.
yeah,
But
yeah,
yeah, so I mean, if somebody's afraid,
yeah,
um, I can't fix it for anybody.
yeah.
I just know what solution worked for me. I know that I have to take contrary action. Like they say, there's a saying, move a muscle, change a thought.
Move a
So
muscle, change
change
a
a
thought.
thought.
So to kind of just like
You got to get out of your
get
head.
to work.
Pa-
Take one foot
Part
forward, yeah.
part of the recovery program that I'm involved with is talks a lot about altruism,
Mm-hmm.
being altruistic, which is like stop thinking about yourself and do something for somebody else. Go open a door, take somebody for a walk, go over to a cancer ward in a hospital and see what's happening there. Like I volunteered at wildlife rescue where animals are injured. Like do things that when we're stuck in our heads thinking about ourselves, we're back to that again, where we're in fear.
Yeah, I mean, I
So
used to like even want to help like people on the street, or but I'd be afraid to like give them food or
no, I
whatever.
don't mean like go help somebody that's not helping themselves.
I'm not saying whether they're helping themselves or not. I'm just saying that I always was like afraid to help people, whoever they were. I just had like that anxiety
Right.
to like even help people, or to even do something positive, to even put myself out there in any way, to even think that I had something to share. So like I always had to fight that fear to like even get through uh how, just to even believe in myself, or believe that I had something to say, or
There's
that I could help somebody.
there's lots of things we can do to be helpful that isn't even interaction with other humans. I
Mm.
mean, there's working with animals,
Yeah,
there's
that's a good
picking up
one.
trash,
That's a good one.
there's um making food and dropping it off somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things we could do. We could I mean, if I sat and put my thoughts together, I could think of probably a much bigger list, but it's just not thinking about poor me and what's going to happen to me and what am I not getting or what don't I have? Because when we get caught up in that, we're not helping ourselves either.
Mhm.
You know, you could be going to school or taking a music class or
Yeah.
going like they're reading a book or watching a movie or taking a walk. I mean, there's things to do to get out of ourselves. It doesn't even have to actually be always helpful to someone else.
Yeah, I think they talk in the 12-step books about how fear is self-centered, like self-centered fear. So that's like
Yeah.
you're just thinking about yourself. You're worried about how it's going to affect you, how you're going to be uncomfortable, how you're going to get in trouble or you're going to get hurt or whatever, but you're not thinking of how it's going to help somebody else. So,
Well, and alcoholics probably spend more time than any normie thinking about themselves, what I sound like, what I look like, what I'm doing, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, and everything is usually extreme.
so it's a good solution to get out of ourselves and help other people and to go to places that help us and even
Mhm.
go and help the animals. I've heard even people say they have a dog and just feeding the dog helped them get out of themselves.
Yeah, even they have service pets too, where you
Mhm.
can
Those
have
help
a
a lot.
service pet. It doesn't even have to be a dog. There's lots of tools.
Yeah.
There's therapy,
I think
which,
animals are a good tool.
yeah,
I think
Y
anything
yeah,
that restores your sense of purpose, you know?
Yeah, and
because,
I saw a meme today. It said, "Are dogs spiritually enlightened?"
well, if you spell it backwards,
There
maybe.
you go. But, like, because 'cause they're just all happy all the time, and they're just living their life in the moment, so there's probably something to learn from a dog. What do you think, Solomon?
Mm.
I mean I think they are tools of God to, give us happiness. I mean, they don't judge, you know what I mean? They forgive easily. And I think they help a lot of people that
Yeah,
way.
people love dogs. Do you have a
Yeah,
dog? Do you have a dog?
not anymore.
Oh.
No. But I definitely replace my love for pets with the animals at the wildlife rescue.
Very good. Well, thank you for joining us, Lisa.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. This has been a great conversation.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about,
I would
so
have
much to get
I would have
into.
studied up on Star
Well,
Wars
well,
if I had known,
well,
cuz
hey, we got a lot of shows left. We can talk about the hero's journey. We can talk about Carl Jung. We can talk about all of this stuff.
it's all over my head. But we'll find something else whenever you want.
And yeah, you can. I just really appreciate you coming on the show, being supportive of what I'm doing here, whatever it may be, and go like and subscribe to Brandon K Show. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks.